Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Thursday, the 12th of February. Today, I am reaching back in the archives of my bookshelves and pulling out another devotional. This one, again, is Our Daily Bread, and this is taken from Saturday, August the 27th of 2022. And the scripture is taken from James chapter 4, verse 15. If it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. The title is it's called Plans and Providence, and it's written by Glenn Packiam. In 2000, an upstart company operating a movie rental by mail system offered to sell their company for $50 million to Blockbuster, the home movies and video game rentals king at that time. Netflix had roughly 300,000 subscribers, while Blockbuster had millions and millions of them. Blockbuster passed on the opportunity to purchase their little competitor. The result? Today, Netflix has more than 180 million subscribers. This was 3 years ago, and it was worth nearly $200 billion at this time when this was written. As for Blockbuster, well, it went bust. None of us can predict the future. We're tempted to believe that we're in control of our lives and that our plans for the future will succeed. But James says, "You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes." Life is brief, quick, and more fragile than we often realize. Planning is necessary, but the sin of presumption is in the assumption that we are in control. That's why James warns us not to boast in our arrogant schemes, for all such boasting is evil. The way to avoid this sinful practice is through grateful participation with God. Gratitude reminds us that He's the source of every good and perfect gift. Then, when we come to God, we ask Him not to simply bless our present and future plans, but to help us join Him in what He's doing. This is what it means to pray, if it is the Lord's will. The questions here are how are you tempted to be in control of your life? What will it mean for you to surrender to God and to participate with Him? The prayer: Dear Jesus, I relinquish my plans to you. Help me to put my trust in you because you never fail. Plans. Oh, the plans. So just over 2 months ago, no, just over a month ago, I had lots of plans. I had plans to do some traveling in the diocese. I had plans to get out as the weather got better and walk my dog more often than I had been. I had plans to do some work in my office at the house and get it more set up and so that I could take a day each week and work from home, because I generally end up working 6 days a week, and that might help me to slow down and take more time off. And then my plans turned into stepping in a hole and rupturing my Achilles tendon and spraining my ankle. And all of a sudden I realized that my plans are like dust to the wind, tumbleweeds on the prairies. They go as the wind goes. God did not make me step in that hole. God did not make me rupture my Achilles tendon or sprain my ankle. Those are consequences of the fact that I stepped wrong. I made a mistake. I had an accident. But what God did do was help me to recognize through the time it took me, 3 weeks of working from home, lots of sleep, lots of thinking and praying and wondering and being frustrated all get out, and then actually being able to come back into a rhythm of prayer and wonderment and realizing that, number one, I am not indispensable, and number two, all I really need, all I really need is God. Because when I put my faith and my trust in God, God then helps me to see all the other things that I need that are there better. They're there already, and I can use them better, and I can acknowledge them and give thanks for them. We need to be willing to let ourselves be guided by God, to take opportunities whenever God offers, to listen. There are many times in our lives when God has said, go, here's the plan, just go. And then we're called to run with it, to do as God is asking us to do. It's not like we're supposed to sit around every single moment of every day and say, okay, God, what next? It's like that story about, there's a flood and Guy prays to God to save his life, and God, the flood waters are rising, and God sends a neighbor in a rowboat, and he says, "Nope, nope, 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 nope. God's gonna save me." And then he climbs up on his roof because the water's getting higher, and along comes a helicopter and lowers the ladder and says, "Nope, nope, God's gonna save me." When time comes, because he drowns, he says to God, "Why didn't you save me?" And God says, "I sent you a rowboat and I sent you a helicopter. Why didn't you get on board?" God is not expecting us to stop every single moment and say, "Okay, God, what next?" God is expecting us to open our day and say, "Okay, God, what next? What is it you have in store for me?" And then living our lives through the day in a constant conversation with God so that every moment is an opportunity for discernment. Like when I'm done with this video, I have some phone calls to return and some emails to send and some letters I need to send to the diocese. And it will be constant discernment for the rest of my day today to figure out, okay, what next? And trust that God is helping me to know that this is the thing that has to happen first, or this needs to happen immediately. And if something happens, which things can be put aside so I can deal with whatever's become emergent and emergency. I have to trust that because my relationship with God, my sense of listening to God is honed, finely tuned, it's finely tuned enough that I will understand most of the time what it is that God is asking me to do next, that my plans will be God's plans. There'll be all kinds of times, I guarantee you, through this day when I will be like, "No, I don't want to do that." And I do something, and you know what? Lo and behold, it will turn into something that it didn't have to and take longer than it should have because I didn't listen to God. But we need to allow ourselves to develop this relationship with God that we can listen for God's will in our lives. Because the truth is, God only wills what is best for us. God will not do something to us to harm us. God will take something that we've done to harm ourselves, like my foot, and help us to deal with that and learn from it and grow. But God will never expect us to do something harmful. God will always expect us to do something life-giving. So as you go about your day, take time to listen for how God is speaking into your life, that you might understand what God's plans are for you. And you will, I guarantee it, once you start listening and paying attention, you will discover that God's plans for your life are so much greater than your own. And quite often, I've discovered that the things that I have looked forward to the most, the plans that I have made for myself the most, when I turn them over to God, God gives them back. And not only do I get to experience them, but they're better than I would have planned them myself. So put your plans in God's hands and then receive back what God gives to you as God gives, little bit at a time. Have a great day. God bless. Be safe. Don't step in any holes. And if you do, take the time to recover as an opportunity to just chill with God. I'll see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.